Welcome to this Thursday edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast. I always wanted to do the John Oliver Open, so thank you for bearing with me. Welcome to this Thursday edition of the podcast. I'm Andy Herman. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Got a few things that I want to discuss today. I'm going to be talking primarily about the 5 Packers that have impressed me most, who have made maybe a first or second year jump that I am really excited about and that have impressed me through the first quarter of the season. But before I do so, a couple housekeeping items. One, thank you to Mr. Aaron Nagler for the beautiful Cheesehead TV sweatshirt. Appreciate you sending that my way, and I'm excited to rock it through the rest of the season. Also, kudos to you and Corey for your Packer Transplants episode with Matt LaFleur. Epic as always, and congratulations on building a brand that includes, talking to the GM and head coach of the Green Bay Packers from time to time. So, nothing major there, but kudos, congratulations, and cheers to you both. Also, some very big news from a Pack-A-Day podcast side of things. So we just announced a partnership with Blue Wire Podcast. We will be a part of their family from here on out. We are incredibly excited about this. Nothing really changes for you. You can still find us wherever you get your favorite podcast. Worked out a little bit of a tweak with Spotify. For some reason, they gave us 2 different threads. We got it all cleared up, but you can still find us on your favorite podcast stations, but we are now going to be a part of the Blue Wire Network podcast family, and that's going to be mean some more exposure for us, which is always great things. And most importantly, I'm just really incredibly excited for our entire group of podcasters who put in so much ridiculous hard work day in and day out, coming up with great topics and great content 365 days a year. We've been doing it for over 800 plus days. So again, thank you for all who support us, and I hope you enjoy this new Pack-A-Day podcast under the Blue Wire network of families. So a couple housekeeping items out of the way, but wanted to make sure I shouted both of those things out. But again, my main topic today, I want to go over the 5 players that have really impressed me the most through the first quarter of the season from an up-and-coming standpoint. 5 players that maybe I wasn't really expecting a ton from, but have really caught my eye. So before I get to those top 5, and I'll go in order from 5 to number 1, I want to give a couple shout-outs here because first and foremost, I think Jair Alexander and Aaron Rodgers deserve at least a shout out here. So Jair Alexander, really great football player the last couple years, but that question was he going to be able to make that jump into maybe an all-pro type of player? He's one of the best, if not the best corners in football so far this year. It's a short, quarter of the season. We still need to see what he does throughout the course of the year, but he seems to have taken that leap under Jerry Gray, and he is playing phenomenal football right now. So 1, shout out to him, and 2, Aaron Rodgers. I think the talk all off season was, is this the swan song for Aaron Rodgers? Is he going to be able to get back to playing the way he was earlier in his career? All those questions were out there. He has answered those with a resounding middle finger for the most part. But he's been phenomenal, and I think he certainly deserves a shout out here as well. And some honorable mentions. Chandon Sullivan. I know he just went out the last game with a concussion, but he has had a really nice start to the season. Of course, had that pick 6. Think he deserves a mention here. Kamal Martin, which may be somebody that is a little bit weird to mention here because he hasn't played yet, but he legitimately showed me enough just in training camp to know that he is going to be a player for this team going forward. So maybe a draft pick that I hadn't expected a ton from. He showed me a ton in training camp and in some of those sessions at Lambeau Field prior to the season. I still think he's going to have an impact on this season coming up, and certainly on the Packers through his career. John Runyon, another player who deserves an honorable mention. 6th-round draft pick, gets in a game completely unexpectedly, has to play right guard, got into a couple different games, and really looked good, and I think promising enough that I think there's, some conversation to be had as to whether or not he could bump up and potentially be a starter when you start talking about David Bakhtiari and Corey Linsley being free agents next year, Rick Wagner and Billy Turner really potentially having outs in their contract. He's definitely a player to watch. If he gets more playing time and performs well again, you could be looking at him as a potential starter next season across the offensive line. And then an honorable mention as well to Jamal Williams. Dude is totally different. He looks more explosive. He looks more physical. He looks like a wide receiver running routes out there at times. He's just looked really, really fantastic. Kudos to him, especially in a contract year. He has changed the way that he is playing. Wasn't always the biggest Jamal Williams believer. Didn't think he necessarily always had the explosiveness. You still see maybe an issue with vision from time to time with him, but he has reinvented himself this season, and I'd be remiss not to shout him out as well. So let me get to my top 5 players that, again, have really excited me and maybe given me more than what I've expected so far. Number 5 on that list is Allen Lazard. And I know he just suffered the injury, but he showed me enough through the first few games and really going back to the end of last season to believe that wholeheartedly he is a number 2 wide receiver in this league. With Davante Adams out against New Orleans, he had a baller day, was fantastic, carried that offense from a receiving standpoint, and not only is he a very talented wide receiver, but he does all the dirty work. He does all the little things well. I'd mentioned right here on YouTube a couple weeks ago, I just love watching his tape because he does all the little things that help you win football games. We've seen him on end arounds and reverses. We've seen him get deep. We've seen him convert major third down conversions and kind of be that possession guy over the middle of the field. There hasn't been anything that he's really been asked to do so far that he hasn't found a way to get done. And I think sometimes you talk about 40 times in athleticism and this and that and the other thing, and sometimes getting the dang job done is the best skill and trait that you can have, and Alan Lazard knows how to get the job done. So he comes in at number 5 on my list. Number 4, Kingsley Keke. We saw him have the couple sacks against the New Orleans Saints. He continues to progress. He continues to get better. This is going to be a player who is a mainstay along the defensive line as he continues to grow. Does he probably need to get a little bit better at run defense? Yes, but is he a liability there right now? No, and he continues to look better rushing the passer. Really excited about his prospects as a interior defensive player alongside Kenny Clark for the next few seasons. I think Green Bay found their Batman and Robin there with Kenny Clark and Kingsley Keke playing in the middle of that defensive line with Rashawn Gary, Zadarius Smith on the outside. That has the ability to be a really core group for the foreseeable future, and really excited about what Kingsley Keke is going to be able to bring to this team. Number 3, got to go my guy, Robert Tonyan. And talk about a situation where you've got a 3rd round pick in Jay Sternberger. Everyone is expecting him, myself included, to take this big leap in year 2. You've got 3rd round pick in Josiah DeGuara. Again, I think everyone's expecting him to be used as this H-back, tight end, a little bit of everything, which to be fair, I think he would have had he stayed healthy. But it's not either the 3rd round tight ends. It's Robert Tonyan who comes back. Looks like he is in the best shape of his career, looks majorly improved as a route runner, looks much better as a blocker, both as a run blocker and a pass protector. Is he a complete all-around tight end at this point? No, but is he tight end 1 for the Green Bay Packers? Yes. Is he catching tons of touchdowns? Yes, just call him Bobby Touchdowns. He has been really fun to watch from his progression as a wide receiver out of college to now the number 1 tight end for the Green Bay Packers. It's been a really pleasant surprise to this season, and adding a tight end who can do all of those things after Jimmy Graham a season ago really wasn't able to do any of them. He lost all of really the weapons in his arsenal. We know he was a terrible blocker. He was no longer good in the red zone. He wasn't able to get up the seam. He wasn't able to run after the catch. And now we're seeing Robert Tonyan do a little bit of each of that. That is a major upgrade at that tight end position. And again, kudos to Robert Tonyan for bringing it all together in this season as a Green Bay Packer. And good news as well, he's a restricted free agent next year. So Green Bay still holds his rights. Number 2, Rashawn Gary. And I know there's some injuries on this list. Just missed last week. But what I saw out of Rashawn Gary for the first few weeks was a player who was ready to take a major step. When people were all talking this offseason about all these different players, a lot of them who we've already covered here today, were really looking good throughout training camp. I'm always looking for the player who's really going to be able to take their game to the next level and really potentially be a star, because those are the players that opposing coordinators have to think about, stay up late at night scheming for. Rashawn Gary's not there yet, but I have a really strong feeling that eventually he is going to be one of those players that opposing coordinators have to account for at all times. We've seen him play inside. We've seen him play outside. He's always going to be a really strong edge defender and being able to set the edge. We've seen him stout at the point of attack. He's added more moves to his arsenal. What we hoped for a season ago with Rashawn Gary sitting behind Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, 2 leaders of this football team, have Mike Smith as a outside linebackers coach. He got all of the benefit. I know he didn't play a ton last year. He got just enough snaps to continue to learn, and now he's really putting it all together, and I'm excited to see what the rest of this season is going to bring. And that brings me to number 1, Chris Barnes. I am so excited about Chris Barnes, and I'm hesitant to put him number 1. I'm hesitant to, put him and say he's going to be a star or anything like that. I want to see what he continues to do, but he has been fantastic. He has been a solid run defender. He's gotten back in coverage. I'm still not sure that he's a full 3-down linebacker. We'll see what kind of time brings, but man, some of the plays he's putting on tape as a blitzer, as a run stopper, getting back in coverage, turning his back, getting his hands on a football this past week. I know it was caught off a deflection, but I am incredibly excited about Chris Barnes, and it takes you finding some of these undrafted free agents. Think back to Cullen Jenkins, Sam Shields, Tramon Williams. You got to hit on some of those guys if you want to put together a Super Bowl roster, because there's only so much money to spend. There's only so much money to go around. Drafting players consistently is hard. Finding players in free agency is hard. You got to find and unearth some of those gems. Chris Barnes is one of those gems, and Green Bay found a really good linebacker in him. Can't wait to see what Kamal Martin and Chris Barnes can bring long-term to that inside linebacker group. They may have a true tandem at inside linebacker for the foreseeable future for the first time since probably their last Super Bowl run. So those are my 5: Allen Lazard, Kingsley Keke, Robert Tonyan, Rashawn Gary, and Chris Barnes. These are the players that have helped elevate this team to the next level. I got to get out of here. Thanks so much for following me. Always appreciate it. Make sure to check back tomorrow. Make sure to check out the new podcast. Thanks to Aaron for the sweatshirt. Thanks to Blue Wire Podcast for partnering with us. And that's it. Go Pack Go.